They did indeed. And now they go into action tonight. It's a 5 o'clock kickoff. That was Josie's take on the Swiss. They play Spain tonight, 5 o'clock, and it's live on talkSPORT. Simon is with me. So too is Andros Townsend and our European football expert, Andy Brassel, who's been travelling about. He's been in Budapest. Now he's back with us in London. And tonight, tomorrow night, I should say, in Baku at 5 o'clock, the Czech Republic, Souček and Kufal et al. Up against Denmark. Andy, again, I look at it, very hard to pick a winner. I mean, without him, and it's curious to put this to you, how much is Eriksen a force in driving the Danes forward?
Well, I think clearly it's brought everyone closer together. And the coach, Kasper Hjulmand, has done a really, really good job there. And he's someone who comes from a background where he is quite cerebral and he understands it's not just what's on the pitch and it's about personal development of the players and about relating to the players. I'm not sure all coaches understand that, really, but he's someone who really gets that. From the background he came from at Nordsjælland, where it's about bringing players in, developing them as people as well as players, getting them to understand other strata of society. I think that sets him up quite well to, be able to put stuff into perspective and be able to help them deal with this just impossible situation. I think Copenhagen definitely helped them. The fact that they got to play those two matches against Belgium and Russia going on after that, because they just felt this massive wave of emotion and love behind them.
Yes.
But then again, you look at the players and it's a good team. Yeah. There are a lot of good players in there who, I think, especially you look at, say, Christensen and the levels that he's come up under Thomas Tuchel after the last little while. Kasper Schmeichel, we know he's a leader. Kjær has had a great season with Milan. And then you've got the young talent. And someone like Damsgaard, for example, who scored that first goal against the Russians. He's someone who, again, comes from a slightly not typically Danish sort of place. He's a player who likes to get the ball and dribble and take people on. And you talked about Eriksen before. Quite a lot of people have said about Damsgaard, he's the most talented player that Denmark have produced since Michael Laudrup. I mean, that's big talk.
My God.
And for him to step up and not be scared by that, I think is something.
Yeah, I think that the Danish, they stepped back onto the field after the Christian Eriksen incident in the first game to try and to do it for Christian, to try and use all that emotion, use the togetherness, to try and get a result for Christian. But in the first game, it was just too raw, the emotion, all the adrenaline, and it was just too raw. And when they came back out, they didn't have the same enthusiasm, rightly so. But after that, we've seen everyone get behind the team. The Danish fans in those two games were incredible, and we've seen them doing it for a bigger purpose, and you can't underestimate a team who's doing it for a bigger purpose from football. So I wouldn't rule the Danish out, even if they go through tonight and go on to play one of the top nations.
Of course, to our cost, unfortunately, Simon, I was at Hampden on the day the Czechs beat the Scots, and Patrick Schick released that thing from the halfway line. Yeah. I mean, I wonder what we'll see tonight. They've surprised many. Who's to say they don't do it again tomorrow night against the Danes?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Czech Republic in their pomp against England, and there was nothing there that really occupied anyone's interest. Now, the Dutch, we've listened to the Dutch and talk about their absolute implosion and Frank de Boer's meltdown of not understanding whether he's Arthur or Martha. So I don't know quite what to make of what the Czech Republic are going to bring. Look at the Danish. I want to go back to the Danish for a second. And they've had two results that have been compelling results, which are the drubbing of the Russians and the game against Wales. And I wondered if you thought that those two results were an element of flattering to deceive. I understand the emotive sentiments behind being driven forward by a greater force, but that will find its level against teams that are technically better, and those teams will not just be affected by the desire that the Denmark team have to be able to do it for Christian Eriksen.
I feel that point of view, Simon. I mean, Russia are not a great side, and then Wales 4-0 didn't really tell the story, did it, of what actually happened in the game. I mean, going back to England's initial group and going back to the Czechs, I think this Czech side's a lot better than it gets credit for, and I thought they could beat Croatia to the second place in the group behind England, going back into that. Now, they didn't quite do that, but they weren't a million miles away from doing that either. Now, personally, I think Ukraine are the weakest third place side left in the tournament. Czechs are maybe the best. And I think if you get so little time at international level, if you can get a working part of a club team and plant it into your international team, it saves you a load of time and it does so much for you. And you look at Slavia Prague, who stuff off the pitch notwithstanding,
Or Kudela.
were really, really good, not just this year in the Europa League, but the year before as well. They've been building something on the back of a lot of money, which has enabled them to retain players. It enabled them to retain, say, Thomas Soucek for a while longer and really tax West Ham on him as well. They did the same with Soufal, and those players are kind of part of that. So already these players know each other pretty well.
Isn't that the same with the Ukrainians, though? Because the Ukrainians have got all Shakhtar Donetsk and Dynamo Kiev players.
Well, yeah, but I think Slavia have been brilliant in the last couple of years, whereas Shakhtar and Dinamo are both a little up and down, partly because of like the Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian football, but they're a little bit ahead. Whereas Slavia have shown that they can compete with the best.
Oh, yeah.
Then you add on to the top of that Thomas Vaclik, who hasn't played that much at Sevilla this season, but is a really good goalkeeper and one of the best goalkeepers in this tournament, and Schick, who, if you boil it down to ability, is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been quite inconsistent.
You must love him,
he didn't
Andros,
have a,
you know.
Very
He's a
good.
ball player when you see it.
Very good.
I mean, he didn't have a brilliant last season at Leverkusen, but someone like that who, when he was in his early days at Sampdoria, he got compared to Dennis Bergkamp. He was that good because he's got the vision, he's got the touch, and then on top of that, he can take the physical whacks and win the ball in the air. Now, you put all that together, and in one little tournament run, I mean, well, we've already seen what he can do, and who knows where he can go from there.
Having said all that, what do you think?
Checks to win.
Checks to win? Checks to win?
Yeah.
Oh, right, I thought you were going to say Danes.
Really?
Andros?
Oh, I'm going to go Denmark.
Yeah.
No, I think he's right. I think Czech Republic.
Czech. Anyone in the Czech Republic team take a Panenka, incidentally, at penalties? Do they do it? Have they invented
They've been
it?
brought up with it, you'd hope so.
Yeah, you would think so. So come on then, Andy, at Rome. Live on talkSPORT, 8 o'clock. Ukraine, England. Everywhere I go, I'm told how many England are going to win by.
It's not going to be that kind of game, I don't think. Like I said, I do think Ukraine are the weakest of the third place teams. I think that the big issue for them, looking at how they would get through England, who've really not conceded a goal, not conceded a lot of chances in this tournament, I don't really see how Ukraine get through England. Basically, their best player, forget Yarmolenko for a minute, is Ruslan Malinovsky, who didn't start the last game, who plays for Atalanta and he had an unbelievable season there. He's such a talented playmaker. He's the player who could open England up.
So he plays tomorrow?
I think he does.
Yeah.
Because they've got no other way of opening England up. Because,
Right.
you know, they know
Right.
Yarmolenko backwards. So if Shevchenko takes the plunge and picks him, he's got to play better than he's played this tournament, because he's not played very well this tournament. It's hard to be so critical of players because they've basically played 2 seasons combined into one. And I think it's interesting, if you look at players like Schick, who didn't play every game last season, Emil Forsberg, who's great for Sweden, if you compare him to one of his club mates like Danny Olmo at Leipzig, played 700 minutes less than him, and you feel that freshness, I think if you're somewhere between being in good form but quite well rested as well, you're probably in a good position to cash in this Euro. And maybe that physical toll is weighing a little bit on Malinovsky, because he's the number one danger, I think, for England.
I think if I'm a Ukrainian player, though, I don't need to cut open England. They need to be defensively solid. They need to frustrate England, and as the game goes on, maybe nick a counter attack or nick one on the set on a set piece. So the mindset won't be right. How do we cut England apart? Do we need Yarmolenko doing this? It's not about that. It's about first and foremost being defensively solid and try and frustrate that England front line.
At some point, though, you have to create a chance if you're going to win the game. I think that's the issue, and I would feel pretty comfortable with England at set pieces. And actually, in an attacking sense, I think set pieces could be where England cash in as well.
No one's going to give Ukraine a chance, are they? Or
I
are they?
Listen, I think they have a chance, but I don't think it's much of a chance. I was not
fair.
unimpressed with them against Sweden, because I think before the game I was looking at the Swedish side, and if I was going to pick a side, I would have thought the Swedes would have come through that. And I thought at times Ukraine looked quite good. The goal they scored was with pace, and it was a great goal, that the great finish from Zinchenko, but the break down the wing was delivered with pace and poise. I think it's a difficult game because the expectation is on England. And as Andros says, the Ukrainians have got to take care of business, but it's England that have got to make this game.
Yeah.
It's England that have got to take the game to the Ukrainians, and I'm not sure how good we are at that, because we don't tend to be good against teams that that don't think they can beat us.
And it's not just this game, really, is it, Simon? Like, there's a lot of weight on the draw and the way it's folded. The sense that once you've beaten Germany, clear path to the final. Well, that's a different pressure, isn't it?
Of course it is, and that's a pressure that goes psychologically because we are a better side than the Ukrainians, and it comes down to now. There may come a point where there'll be a clamour for Jack Grealish. I think the worst thing that can happen is start Jack Grealish. I think Jack Grealish coming into the game after 60 minutes is where it's set up. Because if I think he starts for England, they'll just be the same situation that everyone else has, which is creative frustration and bankruptcy at times.
Okay.
Coming into a game when it stretches better for Jack Grealish.
I think you're all going England, are you? There, put me out of my misery. England, you're right.
1-0 England, yeah.
Yeah, you're all the three lions in the studio. Yeah. Okay. Andy, I thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You've been brilliant, mate, throughout the tournament, and there's a bit to go yet. You're listening to Eurogame Day warm-up on talkSPORT with Green King, and the pub is back. You can book your spot now and catch all the action this summer at over 900 pubs nationwide.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.